spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football, where we give you everything you need to know about the NFL this day in 30 minutes or less. I'm here with Tanner Phifer of Phifer Football. Is going to be joining us every Tuesday. This is the preview look ahead for fantasy football. We're looking at week 8. We're going to break down waiver wires, buy, sell candidates, talk a little bit of news and notes here with Tanner, and just have a general look at the week ahead. Thank you guys. If you're listening or watching for the first time, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe either on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Tanner, we're done with 7 weeks. Over 33% of the season is done. I feel like we're almost going too fast, so we got to relish it before it's gone. How are you feeling now?
Man, I love the NFL. And yeah, you're right. Every week seems to be going by faster, so we do have to cherish it while it's here. And I do want to say I apologize if there's any lag or audio or video wise. I'm currently undergoing some different moving parts in my apartment right now, so just trying to get some stuff figured out. So I apologize for that, but I'm excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course, man. We'll roll with it. We're used to technical difficulties. That's part of doing a live show. I do like the new changing color background you have. It adds a nice little visual flair. So appreciate you bringing that this week. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. We've got our producer, Anthony Weiner, behind the scenes. He's going to have the timer. If you're listening or watching for the first time, we will be on a 30-minute timer. We will get this NFL news done in 30 minutes or less. That's the whole point of the show. Hope you enjoy it. 30 minutes of football with Legit Football starts now. So as we do every Tuesday, we always like to start with the waiver wire. I think the people who do listen to this particular episode, that's one of the things they enjoy the most. As has been the custom the past few weeks, I've got a long list of names, but Tanner, I want to hear from you first. Who are some people you're looking to add in fantasy football that should be on the waiver wire going into week 8?
So, I mean, it depends on how available they are. But two guys, obviously, or I'll go over the first guy that jumps to my mind, and it's quarterback-wise, Daniel Jones. Never thought I would say that in my entire life.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd say that.
Right now.
He's ranked 8 overall in the league I'm in, and he's on the waivers, and he's rostered in only 29% of leagues. He's had at least 6 rushing attempts in every single game, and he rushed over 100 yards in this week for a rushing touchdown. So I think that ranks only behind Lamar Jackson. I mean, never thought I'd say that, but the Giants are 6-1. So what do? You got to add him.
Well, he's on my list too. Like I said, I have a long list. He is the only quarterback I have on there. And if nothing else, it's the rushing floor that you get. We say it all the time. Rushing for a quarterback adds such a consistent floor in fantasy production that even if they aren't prolific passers, there's no real wide receiver targets for the New York Giants. It doesn't matter. He just ran for over 100 yards. He has more rushing yards than Najee Harris. That is one of the craziest stats that I've heard so far in the season. So I'm with you there, Tanner. I like Daniel Jones as an ad. Who is your second one? Who's another player that you're kind of eyeing here?
So right now it's kind of open for the Carolina Panthers. And I like both backs that they have, Chuba Hubbard and Dante Foreman. So it's kind of a toss-up between those two. But Foreman did finish with, 15 rushes, something like that? Let me look. 15 rushes, 118 yards.
Right.
Pretty good. And I think that just the Panthers, and they're starting PJ Walker, they're probably going to be relying on these little short passes, screens to the backfield. And I think that Chuba Hubbard got a little banged up.
Correct.
So
he did injure his ankle. Correct. They made it seem like it was not a big deal, that it was a minor injury and that he could have come back in the game. But two factors in particular, I'm with you there. Foreman is also on my list. Between the two, if you're only going to pick up one, I would pick up Foreman. He did lead the backfield. He got more touches and carries than Chuba Hubbard. Hubbard did get the touchdown, but Hubbard also banged up. So more volume, more opportunity, a little bit higher floor for Foreman. It's still the Panthers. We have to keep in mind, I think part of this was the Bucs are just melting right now. But hey, running back is thin. If you're going to add somebody, I like Donta Foreman. I'm just going to throw out a bunch of names because I have a long list and we've got other stuff to get to. Gus Edwards is my number one. I had him in a dynasty league. He's been on IR, tore his ACL with all the injuries the Ravens had at the start of last season. Did not expect him to come back and play as well as he did. He had about 66 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Didn't look explosive, but that's not really Gus Edwards' game. He was running physical. He was hitting the holes. The Ravens committed to the run, and it showed. Lamar Jackson only had 19 dropbacks, 16 total pass attempts. J.K. Dobbins has had a knee scope, and he's going to be out, it looks like, 4 to 6 weeks. So this is Gus Edwards' role. They did have a little bit of Kenyon Drake, a little bit of Justice Hill. Hill fumbled. Drake not as efficient. So I do like Edwards as the running back to add there in Baltimore. Tyler Algier, the guy I was highlighting all offseason. I love his talent. I love his physical running style in this Arthur Smith offense.
He's on my list too.
I loved how he looked coming out of BYU. And he is finally looking, scored his first NFL touchdown and got over 50 yards rushing. I like this. And it's clear the Falcons are going to commit to the run. They were losing. They were getting pounded by the Bengals, and they still continued to primarily rely on the rushing offense. As long as Cordero Patterson is out, I like Tyler Algier as an add. One more running back is Isaiah Pacheco. If he's still available, he probably isn't because there was a lot of hype last week. He was listed and got most of the first 2 reps for the Chiefs. He didn't end up getting the most touches. It was very evenly split between Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon. But I still think going forward, he has the biggest upside. So if you have a roster spot, stash him. I have Daniel Jones. Tanner already mentioned him. How about Nico Collins? Brandon Cooks has been the subject of trade rumors. Apparently, multiple teams calling the Texans interested in Cooks. Cooks has been traded 3 times previously in his career. This would make the 4th with that, but would tie him for the record for most times traded in NFL history. So Nico Collins, already a pretty good amount of volume from Davis Mills in Houston, but without Brandon Cooks, he would easily capture that extra target share and would be an absolute add. Marquise Goodwin, if DK Metcalf misses time, it looks like he might. He got carted off. They feared the injury was going to be really bad. He ends up actually, the x-rays were negative. There's the slightest little whispering of maybe he wants to play this week. I think that's a little crazy. So we'll get at least 1 week with him out. Marquise Goodwin scored 2 touchdowns with DK Metcalf out. And then finally on the tight end front, Greg Dulcich. This is rookie. Finally came up for really the only Bronco that I feel comfortable adding. Scored a touchdown in his debut last week. Had, I believe, 8 targets in this past week with Brett Rippon at quarterback. Still to be determined who plays this week. Not a lot of Broncos to be happy with on fantasy, but if there's one that you want to add, especially because tight end is just so thin, I like Greg Dulcich. Any of those names pop out at you, Tanner?
It's hard for me to put any trust into the Chiefs' backfield. I don't really like the way they use their running back. So PPR-wise, there's always an upside, but I'm just not huge on trusting their backfield. Same goes for me with the Jaguars. Doug Peterson, I didn't really like the way he plays running backs when he was with Philadelphia. But Travis Etienne is going to be on my list just because he is really the only guy right now. So he's going to be on my list if he is available. He's probably not available in a lot of leagues, but right now he could soar up.
Okay, great. I don't know if the audience experienced that. I had a little bit of a blip on the internet side. So once again, if we have some technical difficulties in the stream,
guys,
apologies. Let's go ahead and move on to buy low candidates. I do have a few names on the list. One of them is a repeat from last week. Tanner, do you want to start this one off? Do you have any candidates that you're kind of eyeing in trades that you think are still yet to produce more than they have and that you might be able to get a good value on? Or I can kick it off.
I kind of have Christian McCaffrey on that list. Like, some people were probably hesitant. He's not having didn't start off with the strongest scores, and he's always seeming to pop up on an injury report. But he did get traded to the 49ers. If you were thinking about trading him before he got traded, maybe hang on to him, see what he can do with the 49ers. But that's just kind of a risky toss-up.
Yeah, I have I'm going to start mentioning hold candidates later in the show. And spoiler alert, Christian McCaffrey is on that hold list, kind of like a wait and see approach. Yep. Some people I'm buying low on. I mentioned him last week, and I still think there's opportunity to buy low because Amon-Ra St. Brown finally came back after missing multiple weeks and took a hit. And apparently there was a little bit of a stumble with all the new scrutiny around concussions. Yep. They removed him from the game and ruled him out. Dan Campbell said he did not suffer a concussion, but he is in concussion protocol because they're hyper vigilant with what happened to Tua.
Oh, what that means is that killed my fantasy.
Yeah, it killed a lot of people's fantasy. I had him in every single DFS lineup, and that certainly hurt me. Was not a good week for DFS for me. But that means he's still maybe even more so an opportunity for buy low, because if you're an Amon-Ra St. Brown owner in fantasy like you are, Tanner, you've now had like 4 or 5 straight weeks with no production or very little production. You might be itching if your team is losing and you need to make a move. Amon-Ra St. Brown, when he's healthy and when he's not removed erroneously for a concussion protocol, he's good for 6 to 8 catches a game. He had that streak where he had like 6 or 7 straight games with a touchdown. The upside is still there if you can trade for Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can probably get him cheaper than you would normally get him. Jonathan Taylor, also on my list last week, actually looked pretty good and efficient in his return. He just didn't get as much volume maybe as we expected. I think that's going to change, especially Sam Ehlinger is now set to start for the Colts. Matt Ryan is no longer the starter for the rest of the season. He may need to rely on a stud like Jonathan Taylor in the backfield.
Yep.
3 more names. Rashad Bateman coming. He's also going to get acclimated more, commanded a lot of the target share, even though the Ravens didn't throw much. And he has a very easy schedule as far as wide receiver matchups, going up against cornerback. Terry McLaurin, Heineke, that showed immediately. He was his preferred target, scored a touchdown. And then finally, we mentioned DK Metcalf earlier. That brings Tyler Lockett as a buy low candidate because he had, an amazing week earlier, but he's not producing at a super high level. He's still fairly consistent, but without DK Metcalf, Lockett's value goes up. See if you can trade for him. Any other names you want to throw out, Tanner, before we move on to selling high?
Buying low, I would say James Robinson. I feel like because his last several weeks have been not good at all. So people were hyped about him to begin the season. Probably dropped him. We're trying to trade him. Right now, I would trade for him. He's going to be the RB1 for the Jets. Maybe not this next week, but after week 8, he'll probably be the number 1 guy in that backfield. I would trade for him.
I have him on my hold list. We're now mentioning, so we're
he kind of fits into both categories, I think.
He does. If you're buying low on him, it's a little bit of a speculation. Like, let's go ahead. Let's not do buy low. Let's go ahead and jump to the players to hold that we're going to debut this week. No, it's all good. Because this is, I wanted to introduce this. I was putting together the notes for the show, and a lot of times we'll get questions like, do we sell them? Do we buy them? Or do we hold? And the 2 players I have are Christian McCaffrey. So let's talk about him first. Tanner, why do you think you should hold on to Christian McCaffrey right now?
Just because the upside. Obviously, the Panthers have trouble. They have trouble at quarterback. Their offense is not producing. I think they had a great week, of course, but that was against a Tampa Bay team that is just not looking good right now. You trade him to the San Francisco 49ers. You give him time to adjust to the new playbook. The upside is there. The PPR, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo, just his short, intermediate screen passes. You're going to have Deebo Samuel that takes a lot of attention in the secondary. So you're going to have Christian McCaffrey available probably for those dump passes. He's elusive. He's Christian McCaffrey. When he's healthy, he's one of the best in the NFL. And like I said, if he's healthy, that just seems to be the problem with the 49ers. They seem to have a lot of issues keeping their running backs healthy. And they traded quite a bit of picks for him. So if he is healthy, they're going to play him. And the upside is just there. The ceiling is crazy.
Yeah, and the reason I have actually both of the players, James Robinson and Christian McCaffrey, are both players that just got traded to new teams, and that's why I'm holding on them. CMC, you could probably definitely throw in the buy low. James Robinson's a little more like, yeah, if you really need a running back and if you get a good value for him, but we don't know what we're getting, especially James Robinson. So Robinson is going to both of these offenses are Shanahan offenses. You've got Mike LaFleur running the offense as the offensive coordinator in New York. And of course, you have Kyle Shanahan running the offense in San Francisco. Very running back, this zone scheme, running back friendly. Get your running backs out into space, one cut, hit the hole, and usually get chunk gains. So theoretically, James Robinson should produce well, but they really like Michael Carter. He came in after Breece Hall got injured, pretty much immediately busted out a 37-yard run. He was a second-round pick last year. He's still due to be productive. But with this running back-friendly offense, James Robinson could produce at a high level in a year where running back is so incredibly thin. I would hold on him. I'm definitely not selling him. Maybe buy, but I'm not selling James Robinson because I want to see what I get first. Same with Christian McCaffrey. I wouldn't sell him. There's a possibility he could work so well in this offense, in this yak offense of Shanahan, that he ends up as RB1 for the rest of the year in fantasy. So both of these guys, I'm holding on. Any additional thoughts here, Tanner, before we go ahead and move on to sell high?
Just the James Robinson, Michael Carter thing. I thought, honestly, they were going to have all faith in Michael Carter to be that guy, to be the RB1. I think he's really good. But with James Robinson coming in, it's like, are they going to split it 50-50? It's kind of just puts me back in that if standpoint. So I don't know. I do like James Robinson. I love him. I think he's a great running back. But it kind of puts me like, well, is he going to be RB1 over Carter, or are they going to split it 50-50? That's why I would hold on to him and just see what happens.
All right, let's we got about 40 seconds left until halftime. Let's go ahead and start the sell high candidate discussion. I will kick it off, and then we'll throw it over to you. You feel free to comment on any of these names. Players I'm selling high on,
Sure.
Deebo Samuel, for a few reasons. Deebo is still Deebo. He's got the name recognition. He can still produce. He did tweak his hamstring. He's day-to-day right now, so there's that injury concern. I still think you could sell high on him because he's Deebo Samuel. His value is much higher with Jimmy Garoppolo, but with Christian McCaffrey, does he take those running back? You know, a lot of Deebo's value is because he would get touches in the backfield. Christian McCaffrey there definitely eats into that, I think. McCaffrey also will eat into his receptions because he's such a threat catching the ball. That chime means it's halftime. We will continue this discussion. I want to talk a little bit more about Deebo and the other selling high candidates. This is our opportunity, guys. If you are listening, watching, and you've never subscribed to Legit Football, go ahead, legitfootball.com, enter your email address, the top 6 stories of the day, summarized for you, broken down, just telling you what you need to know, delivered direct to your inbox, 100% for free, 5 days a week, all year long. We do it in the off season, draft time, June, July, training camp, doesn't matter. Go ahead and subscribe. We'll also break down the injuries for you, which is super valuable. You're going to get an injury roundup in the bottom of the newsletter during the season. Once again, legitfootball.com, enter your email address, join for free. You can always unsubscribe. This is why we do this thing. Tanner, let everybody know where they can find you.
I am on Twitter at Tanner Phifer NFL. You can see that right below. Instagram is Phifer Football. Got a community of about 55,000 followers. So make sure you guys join there. Also, please make sure you sign up for Legit Football. Consistent every single day NFL news in my inbox. It's great to have.
Thanks, Tanner. And don't forget to follow Tanner everywhere. He's on TikTok as well. Anywhere he's putting out this NFL content, he's the guy to follow. All right, Anthony, let's go ahead and get that timer ready to start the second half. And I want to keep on this selling high discussion that we were having. So,
sounds good.
Talking about Deebo, what are your thoughts on selling high on Deebo? If you're a Deebo owner in fantasy, do you want to hold him?
No, I'd sell him.
Yeah.
I'd sell him. Yeah. I'm not high on the 49ers offense in general. I just don't think they're that explosive. I don't. Now, Deebo Samuel is a great player. I'm not going to try to take that away from him. I'm not going to ever try to disrespect any players as an offense in general. I'm not high on the 49ers offense. They're just, I mean, you got George Kittle there. He's a big body dude. He's going to take a lot of attention as well. And Deebo Samuel, honestly, I just feel like he's just made that name for himself. So it's like you can really probably get more than he's worth fantasy-wise out of him. And that's what I would take advantage of right now.
My other sell high candidate, I just have written down the Bucs offense. I want to sell all of them. I don't want a piece of any of them. There is
Yeah,
something
no.
fundamentally broken with this Tampa Bay offense, from Brady to Evans dropping that 60-something yard bomb to start the game. Chris Godwin
That was
is
bad.
coming off the ACL injury, is not as sharp, which is normal. You know, I expect him to bounce back and have a better season next year. Leonard Fournette hasn't been as effective. There's just nothing really to like in this Bucs offense. So I'm selling all of them if you can. I still think you can get.
Let me tell you something, Brian. Okay. I have never drafted anyone on a Tom Brady offense in fantasy football. Now, you can have players that were more consistent, like Rob Gronkowski back in the day with the Patriots, maybe Julian Edelman, maybe. But I stay away from any Tom Brady offense. He spreads the ball around, and especially this year, they're just falling apart. So that's my opinions on any Tom Brady offense in fantasy football.
Well, one of the guys that you can usually rely on for a floor is Mike Evans, just because
Mike Evans.
So much, especially in the red zone. He's just been Brady would just hyper target him because he's such a mismatch in the red zone, but he's also great at 50-50 balls, a great deep ball threat. But there's just something mentally off, and it's affecting the defense now too. This Bucs team is in a bad place, so I don't want any piece of them going forward.
Mike
That's
Evans
why their entire offense.
The only consistent dude that I would trust at all, but like you said, sell high right now, get out. Don't trust him.
Before we move on, do you have any sell highs? Do you have any candidates that, like, you know, it's just I don't like his prospects. Let's hear who you got.
And it's hard for me to say this because I love him so much, but it's wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Deontay Johnson. He's rostered in 95% of leagues. I think he's still a starter. If you're in a 10 to 12-man league, he's going to be a stapled starter. Selling high right now. It's not that I don't have faith in Kenny Pickett or the Steelers. It's just the fact that he's had 3 games with under double-digit points, and his last double-digit point game was 5 catches on 13 targets, which is a lot of targets. 5 catches, 60 yards. That's it. And he had 11 points for me. So he's been on my bench for several weeks in a row. What's he doing besides providing depth? I might need him now that Amon-Ra St. Brown and DK Metcalf could potentially be up in the air. But it's like, if you don't need him and you need a running back or a quarterback, try to sell the guy. You know, I'd sell high if I were you.
My question is not to sell him, is how much can you get for him at this point? I think that the luster has come off Deontay Johnson a little bit, especially with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. I think he was a better target and got more volume when it was Mitch Trubisky. But George Pickens is clearly the top target. Pat Freiermuth still a top target. Deontay Johnson is we're kind of seeing his value go down. So sell him while you can.
You gotta sell. Yeah, you gotta sell now before his stock decreases more. If it's really considered a sell high, but like I said, he's still rostered 95%, so he's still kind of here. Sell him while you can.
Yeah, you could probably find somebody who likes, Deontay Johnson. He's been a great PPR contributor in the past. You can kind of maybe write off that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk just about I always like to bring up some defensive special teams to stream if you're in a redraft league or a dynasty that has defenses. I think more importantly, this is probably good advice for a DFS. So some of the defenses I am targeting this week. Do you have defenses in your league, Tanner? Your kind of league that you've been in for a while. Do you still play defenses?
Yeah, it's like defense special teams. As like a whole. So
yeah, of course. So some of the ones I really like. Now, I said the Patriots last week. Actually, I've said them now 3 weeks in a row. And I don't know where this Bears offense came from. They looked better.
It's a fluke. It's not going to happen every week.
So you think it's a fluke? You don't think they've turned a corner there, Justin Fields in Chicago?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm
curious because Belichick is no slouch on defense. That's why I've been playing them. I thought that when you had such a one-dimensional offense that was going up against Belichick, that it was just such a good play. He showed that against the Lions. He showed that against the Browns. I expected him to show that against the Bears. I did not expect Fields and the Bears offense to play as well as they did. That being said, I'm going back to the well. I'm putting the New England Patriots in my defensive streamers this week. I just think that they're playing the Jets, and the Jets just lost Breece Hall. James Robinson, we don't know how up to speed he'll be. He's no Breece Hall from a talent level. Zach Wilson has actually been a liability, not a benefit to this Jets offense. And going up against Bill Belichick, they're going to scheme some stuff up that's going to confuse Wilson. Without that home run threat of Breece Hall, I just think that at the very least it'll be a low-scoring game. On the positive, it could be Zach Wilson throwing a few interceptions and the Patriots being able to take advantage. The Bills playing the Packers. I am actually recommending a defensive streamer against the Green Bay Packers.
I hate it, but I have to agree.
Yeah, we talked about the Bucs being broken. The Packers are broken too. Like, these are two quarterbacks who I think it might be their last year. I think we're aiming towards seeing the last of Brady and Rodgers. Let's talk a little bit about the Packers because we talked about the Bucs earlier.
Oh God!
Why do you agree with me here? Why do you agree that this is a good play to play the Bills defense against the two-time MVP, reigning MVP Aaron Rodgers offense?
It's not because I believe Aaron Rodgers is going to throw interceptions. I don't. Well, he doesn't throw interceptions often at all. It's just because they have no receiving core. They're not utilizing their running backs. They're not scoring points. I mean, that's just the gist of it. So you're gonna be getting like probably your base 10 points from the Bills defense. They're still ranked second overall, and that's with a beaten up secondary. I mean, the Packers are a broken offense right now, guys. They have scored 27 points in the second half all season long. I mean, they're just. I don't have confidence in Matt LaFleur. I haven't, even though he's produced 13 and 3 seasons in 3 years in a row. I've tried to tell people there's just something wrong with the guy when it comes to the consistency and the play calling and everything. It's just not good.
They had 80 yards going into the fourth quarter against the Commanders. 80 yards of offense.
Broken.
Dude. No, broken.
I'm a Green Bay fan, so it pains me to root against them. But yeah, you gotta play the Bills defense against them.
And finally, the Tennessee Titans defense, with 3 consecutive weeks of double-digit points as a defense, going up against the Houston Texans, who are not slouches, and they're able to move the ball, but they're not an explosive defense. So I just think this matchup sets up really well for Tennessee going up against Houston. They've been able to capitalize, but getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and that's what I like to look for.
Yeah.
In a defense that I'm going to stream is, can they create pressure, which will lead to sacks, which gets you points, which could lead to fumbles, which could lead to interceptions, which could lead to defensive touchdowns. That's really the main formula to look at when it comes to playing a defense. Any defense on your mind, Tanner, or do you want to move on?
I still have the Broncos. They're just tough. They're stingy. They're hard. Now, the last 2 weeks, it's hard to base off of that, but they're going against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just lost James Robinson. Now, the Jags have been playing people pretty tough, but I don't know. It's still kind of, Trevor Lawrence is still finding a groove. The offense is still trying to find a groove. The biggest threat, I think, is Christian Kirk, and then past him, maybe Travis Etienne, maybe to worry about. I just think Pat Surtain is one of the best in the league at what he's doing, and he's only his second year in the league. I really like the Denver Bronco defense on paper. But I mean, if the Broncos defense is going to get you over double-digit points, they're getting you 16, 14. It's like, so I just like the Denver Broncos defense in general. I think they're pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that pick. They'll be playing the Jags in London this week. So reminder to everybody out there, if you like to watch the London games, got to wake up a little bit earlier this week. All right, we got pretty much exactly 5 minutes left. Tanner, I want to go ahead and turn it over to our news and notes section. So just throw out some headlines, throw out some things you're hearing, throw out some things that you want to talk about as we close out the last 5 minutes of the show today.
Yeah, so get this. I'm hearing a lot of buzz right now. Kareem Hunt trade rumors. Who's going to be interested? Thinking the Denver Broncos, even maybe the Los Angeles Rams. The thing is if you trade Kareem Hunt right now, you got to remember Kareem Hunt requested a trade before the season started, and the Browns were not going to entertain that. Now they might be double thinking that. Nick Chubb's not slowing down. He's a great running back, and it's post June 1st, right? So they're going to take zero dead money if they trade him away, and I think they're going to save, $6.25 million overall if they trade him away. And it's his last season. He'll be a free agent after this season anyways, so you don't want to let him walk in free agency. Why not get what you can out of him right now? He could be an RB1 for another team.
Where
That's
do
just
you have any
that's something
predictions
that
of where you think he may end up? Like if you were a betting man and you're putting money on it, what is the team you think might end up landing him?
it's between the Broncos and the Rams. Broncos, yeah, they did put Mike Boone on IR. They did sign Marlon Mack to their active roster, but he's going to take some time to adjust as well. They obviously do not have faith in Melvin Gordon to be the true RB1 there anymore, and I think he's playing on the last year of his contract as well. I think he may have signed a 1-year contract, but they obviously don't have faith in him. And there was a report saying that the Broncos were in on the Christian McCaffrey trade rumors. They were trying to make a push for Christian McCaffrey. Same with the Rams. The Rams obviously are always trying to in that, win now mode. And fun fact, the Rams have actually scored the second least amount of points in the NFL so far, only behind the Denver Broncos. So the Rams are going to try to make a push to change something offensively right now, and getting a guy like Kareem Hunt, maybe trading away Cam Akers to a team who kind of.
Well, I saw reports that was part of the McCaffrey offer that the Rams made to Carolina, was that Cam Akers was going to be part of the deal. I could see the Rams. Between these two teams, I think the Rams make more sense. I think they make more sense for Cleveland as a trade partner. You don't want to trade him to somebody in your conference and have that come back and bite you. And I just think the Rams they're gonna pay. We've seen them pay for players, and as you said, their offense has been inefficient, especially in the ground game. I really like them as a destination. Who else? What other news? What other things are you hearing out there?
Just the whole buzz on Chase Claypool to the Green Bay Packers. I'm just at the point. I think if the Green Bay Packers don't make a move, Aaron Rodgers might go off on somebody, and he'll publicly do it, because I know he's got to be frustrated. They got to make a move. I'm not saying Chase Claypool is the right move, but obviously right now George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth are the dudes in the Pittsburgh offense. Claypool's kind of just the dude who's standing out right now. Still on that rookie contract, I believe. So there's not much risk if you trade for him. It's probably going to be a mid to late round pick or a package of late picks for Chase Claypool. The upside is there, especially in an offense that needs a true wide receiver one. I think it's something that could happen potentially.
What do you want to happen as a Packers fan? Not just with Claypool, but yeah, obviously that they need receiver help bad. Who would you like to see them sign or target in a trade? Trade deadline is November 1st, I believe, next week. So we basically would have to get done in the next week.
I don't really know who I'd rather them target. I'm cool if they go for Chase Claypool. I think there are better targets, but realistically, I don't know who.
What about Brandon Cooks?
Try to get Brandon Cooks. I like him, I do, but he's had so many concussions in his career. He's always kind of a question mark when it comes to injuries, and that's just the last thing the Packers need right now. He's not exactly going to be cheap, and they don't really necessarily need that kind of shorter slot guy. So I'm not high if they trade for Brandon Cooks. I would rather them go for someone a little bit younger, Chase Claypool, with a little more upside and ceiling. And obviously the Packers have known that want to trade him, but I would love to see them go after him.
We have 16 seconds left, and we do have a question, so let's go ahead and pop that up. Benvolio, Tyreek and Montgomery for JT and Amari Cooper. Who wins? So we're choosing, I guess, which side of this trade makes a little more sense. Let's quickly give our comments, and then we'll wrap up the show. So Tyreek and David Montgomery for Jonathan Taylor and Amari Cooper.
I would take the Tyreek and Montgomery deal. I'm not big on Montgomery, but Tyreek I would take him. I don't like Amari Cooper in Cleveland, so
yeah, this is an interesting one. JT still has the possibility. I'm curious to see what he's like with Ellinger at quarterback. I think they're going to lean on him a little bit more. Amari Cooper has been actually pretty consistent in Cleveland as the number one target for Jacoby Brissett. What's it like when Deshaun comes back? Does his value go up more? Tyreek is a slam dunk as far as what he's been able to do in that McDaniels offense with Tua. And Montgomery, they're getting Khalil Herbert mixed in. I have to lean JT and Amari. It's not a slam dunk. It's The scales kind of could go either way, but I like that Jonathan Taylor was RB1 in fantasy last year. I still think he has that ability, and Amari Cooper has been steady with Brissett. Value could go up even more when Watson returns. Thanks,
That's good points. That makes sense.
Thanks, Benvolio, for throwing that question in right at the last second. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. That is the end of the show. Any last thoughts before we wrap up as we look ahead to Week 8 in the NFL?
No, man, I'm just excited, basically halfway through the season. I just want to see the Packers win. That's it. I'm a Green Bay fan. I want to do something. We got to make a move, whether it's staff-wise or player-wise. I'm excited to see what the Green Bay Packers can do. Aaron Rodgers, if you get a chip on his shoulder, man, he's going to make you pay. So I'm kind of pumped to see what he does.
This is not a good week for that, though. Obviously, I haven't done my game picks yet.
I know.
But those that don't know, if you're watching or listening for the first time, first of all, follow me at _legitfootball. I release my game picks against the spread and straight up for all the week action. I went 9-5 against the spread last week, 10-4 straight up. I'm not going to be picking the Packers. Just want to throw that out there. Tanner,
I wouldn't pick them, no.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me, Tanner. Thank you for listening or watching. This has been 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. Don't forget, we got our Power Ranking show tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you then. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.